Welcome, everyone. This is Angela Lavzarenka with Lactation Education Resources. Very privileged and honored to introduce Nikki and Nikki today. Nikki and Nikki, take it away.
Hey, hey,
What's happening? What's up?
y'all. Listen, I feel like we need confetti. We need some, mid-afternoon drinks, some mimosas happening, something. I mean, it's a celebration, right?
It's
Okay.
a celebration.
Welcome everyone who's here celebrating with us.
Yes.
The
Welcome
virtual-
everyone. Welcome everyone. How are y'all
Thanks for,
doing?
yeah. Tell us how you're doing, where you are, how you feeling, what are you bringing to World Breastfeeding Week now? Day, what are we, 4 already? How
Mm-hmm.
did that happen? I don't
I
even
don't
know how
know.
that happened. All right, but here we are. First things first, I am Nikisha Killings, Director of Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging at LER, Lactation Education Resources, our wonderful hosts who make this possible. Shout out to LER. And a private practice lactation consultant, perinatal equity strategist, a whole lot of other stuff. Whole lot of other stuff. I am joined here by my business partner and dear friend and co-good troublemaker, Nikki Hunter Greenway.
Hello everyone. I'm Nikki Hunter Greenaway, also known as Nurse Nikki. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I'm a lactation consultant. I am based in two cities right now. I am in New Orleans. I am in Houston. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot going on. But I didn't want this day to go by without saying happy anniversary to my friend over here. Nikisha and I started Nikki and Nikki. We launched today, exactly today, three
It was
years
seen
ago.
3 years ago. How did
Three
it go
years
so
ago.
fast?
3 years
Yeah,
ago. Nikki and Nikki Lactation Career Consultants, and we're having a great time. We're having a great time educating folks. And we really pulled this from the Surgeon General's call to action of we need more Black and Brown lactation consultants. We really looked at the problem of what is keeping, why are our numbers so low? Like at the time in the state of Louisiana, we only had 4 um, Black IBCLCs in that space. And then when I became an IBCLC, that year I was number 5, and we have 6. So I mean we haven't made a
that's
whole lot of
progress.
progress, but slow and steady wins the race. But we still need more, and we would love to improve our numbers in our communities of our breastfeeding rates, um, decrease some of these disparities that we have, and that has been our charge of making this process of the pathways and the application dates and all the jazz that is included in becoming an IBCLC. We want to streamline that as much as
Yes,
possible. And
yes,
we thank LER for allowing us this platform to talk about the issues that sometimes that serve as barriers for lactation specialists to take that next step of becoming an IBCLC. So happy
absolutely.
anniversary.
Happy anniversary to you too. Happy birthday anniversary to Nikki and Nikki, Lactation Career Consultants. Listen, we
Hmm.
would have never have guessed that we'd be here in 3 years doing this thing. This platform didn't exist. These talks,
Hmm.
these showing up, talking to you all every couple weeks did not exist 3 years ago. We just knew we had a big vision, which we still have, that is still
Yes.
unfolding, for helping folks really understand the process to become a lactation consultant, and especially those folks who are from underserved communities. So thank
Hmm.
you, thank you, thank you. We are seeing well wishes. Thank you from North Carolina. We appreciate that. Anybody else want to tell us what's going on in your world? Um, oh, we need to check in, don't we? We need to see how
Yeah.
we're doing out there. Yeah. So aside from celebrating so many great things today, we are also going to just make sure that we are okay. It's really
Hmm.
important to us. We start by making sure that we're okay. I'll go first, Nikki. I think I always put you on the spot, so I'll give you a second to assess how you are doing today. I think I'm okay. I y'all know, at least for the first year we were doing this, I would say I'm in Florida. I'm in Florida. So that gives you some assessment. Florida, USA is not doing so great with the pandemic response. And the Delta variant is really doing, causing a lot of destruction in my state. And we're feeling it, quite frankly. I think the last time I checked, we had 1/5 or 20% of all cases, active cases in the country, were in my state. And we are having way more challenges in terms of hospitals being overwhelmed, way more hospitalized, way more positive cases per day than at any point in the pandemic thus far, for Florida. And so it's been a really, really interesting thing to feel now what the rest of the nation felt a year ago. Florida's finally getting a taste of it, where they'd almost started to feel like they were immune because it wasn't ever, you know, so bad, although I questioned those numbers initially. It wasn't ever so bad here. And so folks felt like they were, maybe the sunshine, maybe the, whatever, fill in the blank. The humidity doesn't let, the respiratory droplets, debris, Nikki likes to say, doesn't let the respiratory
Agree.
debris travel so far. And so we are protected from it. But now we're seeing it really ramp up in Florida and saying we are not. I knew that already. Y'all knew that already. But the public is seeing they're not quite as immune as they had thought. So that, of course, brings a new level of stress. And just an awareness at all times that we're in the middle of a pandemic in a way that had kind of started to dissipate in recent months. We're feeling that heaviness and feeling like we need to stay home and stay careful, knowing the Delta variant is far more contagious than the original variant, or the previous variants. And so we feel that as a family, we feel like we need to stay grounded, stay close, be careful. And we're hearing of a lot more neighbors, friends, family members who are getting sick. Even the vaccinated are getting sick. And so we're very, very just acutely aware of that and carrying that with us. But so thankful also for where we are and that we're okay and everyone we know closely is okay on today and in this moment. And we're appreciative of that, and celebrating all that there is to celebrate anyway. Whew, that was a lot. How are you?
Yeah. I I'm in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I am the sister state of Florida, where folks don't listen. And it is very different from Louisiana.
Yeah.
And as far as, and for what I understand, 1 in 3 US COVID cases were either in Florida or Texas. And that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow, coming from a space where, um, coming from Louisiana, and I'll be back in Louisiana next week. So, but yeah, it's a different feel here. So I'm learning to adjust. It's a transition, but we're all well. We're thankful. We're grateful. We have each other and we have our health, and um, yeah, and we do. I will say I do have some patients that are in the hospital right now. Some pregnant patients that are in the hospital right
Mhm.
now, with the Delta variant. So praying for their families and trying to figure out any way that we can assist them. Um, and families are. I have a patient that just was discharged from the hospital and is breastfeeding, and she's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. Like, this is all very scary. And it is, and we just have to follow the science and not our own mind, unless you are the scientist, unless you are the epidemiologist, which I don't claim to be. So I go to the
Yeah.
source, I go to the science, and not try and figure this out and give false information by any means. Make sure I have my ducks in a row when I'm
Yeah.
speaking anything to anybody. So it's hard to stay on top of all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but we're doing as best as we can, like everyone else, doing the best we can.
We hope you all are doing okay out there. We hope that we have found you in a moment of peace, a moment of what I'd like to say is resting in gratitude, that
Hmm.
amid all that you're going through in other areas of your life, we hope that this is a moment where you're taking account of things to be thankful for, taking some deep breaths, and just resting in this experience and time to share with other like-minded, like-focused colleagues, who are out here just trying to make sure every human baby gets human milk.
Right.
So again, remember to chime in the chat. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know how you're feeling. If there's anything we can do to support you, any issues you want us to raise in the discussion, we're happy to do so. But without any further ado, let's get this celebration popping. Let's.
Hey, this is our month, y'all. Come on, get hyped because
This is it.
every lactation person, whether you're a peer supporter, peer counselor, you have a support group, or you're IBCLC, or you're a healthcare provider, IBC, it doesn't matter. If you're in the lactation world, this is our month, and we are expected to be the voice upon the voice upon the voice and speak the good news of breastfeeding. That being said, we are not speaking down on formula. And
No,
that's
of course
something
not.
that we've seen and folks have, that's the criticism we hear every year. And we were talking about this before we came live, and I'm like, I'm so sick of folks raining on our parade. We just trying to have a celebration about some human milk. That's all we're trying to do. So please tell us about your celebrations that you're having in your space all around the world.
Absolutely.
Angela, where are people checking in from?
Well, you do that. Oh, I didn't cut off Angela, did I? Wanted to. All right, I want
No, not
to.
at all.
Oh, there you go.
So we've got people checking in from Maryland.
Ooh,
We've
hey.
got Ontario checking in,
Hello,
which is
Ontario.
great. And looking
Welcome.
through here, we've got somebody else in Texas saying welcome. And we've got Los Angeles in the morning.
Yes,
Nice.
it is in the morning.
It is in the morning. Thank you for joining us early in the morning. I'm bringing up, of course, this is the kickoff of World Breastfeeding Week. Or not the kickoff, we're midway through World Breastfeeding
Yeah,
Week.
yes,
But
almost
it's
gone.
the yeah. It is also the very beginning of National Breastfeeding Month, which
Hmm.
was, you know, officially instituted by the U.S. Breastfeeding Committee, and we celebrate it all month long. Before we go any further, I want to, oh wow, this is the 10th year that it's been in effect. I want to make sure we mention all the different weeks that are occurring. And we'll
Yes.
talk a little bit more about those at the end. But at the top here, I want to state again, this is World Breastfeeding Week. Week 2 of the month is Indigenous Milk Medicine Week. Can we land there for a second? Can we pause?
Yes.
Last year, the weeks fell such that we met, were before you all during, at that time, what was called Native Breastfeeding Week. And we had, I
Hmm.
think, 4 or 5 representatives from
Hmm.
the Native Breastfeeding Week committee who shared with us such beautiful stories of why this is important, why it made sense, and the great work and vision they had for Native Breastfeeding Week and beyond. This year, that week has undergone an evolution.
Mm.
The folks who run it have said, you know what, that name doesn't quite fit what we do and who we are, and the beauty of human milk to our people. And they have renamed it. It's gone from Native Breastfeeding Week to Indigenous Milk Medicine Week.
Come on now.
And the organizers are the Indigenous Milk Medicine Collective, which, you know, I just got to give them a shout out for being intentional about the language that they use and making sure that they were creating a celebration and an awareness event that really spoke to them and resonated with them more than anything, right? And the rest of the world would catch up. They'll get it. They'll get it eventually,
They'll
but
adjust. They'll
they'll
adjust.
adjust. But we could not come before you without mentioning week 2, Indigenous Milk Medicine Week, which is an amazing, amazing new frontier for the folks who we met with last year. Then
Hmm.
week 3 is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Week, which we're so excited about. We'll be back with you that week with a special guest representing one of those communities to share with you. And then, you know, the last week, Black Breastfeeding Week.
Yes.
Black Breastfeeding Week. We
Yes.
know that. That's been around. And Nikki and I represent Black Breastfeeding Week. We'll
Here we
be
are.
just kidding.
I
We
try
represent it
every day.
every time, every day we're here. We will be before you, not in this particular venue, but we will be taking part in something LER is doing called Share the Mic. A lot of organizations are participating in this endeavor such that they are allowing their social media presences to be overtaken, if you will, by folks of color. And during Black Breastfeeding Week, organizations are sharing their platforms with Black breastfeeding professionals. And Nikki and I, as it were, are Black breastfeeding professionals who will be sharing the mic and taking over LER's Facebook and Instagram during Black Breastfeeding Week. So look out for more about that as time comes. That is all of National Breastfeeding Month, I think. I hope I didn't leave out any particular communities. Those are the 4 official weeks of National Breastfeeding Month. But again, we go back to why we're here today is the World Breastfeeding Week celebration. Y'all want to know what the theme is? Y'all know why we're here? Let's do it. The theme changes every year. And this year's World Breastfeeding Week theme is Protect Breastfeeding, a shared responsibility. And we want to talk about exactly what does that, who are we protecting it from? What exactly does that theme mean? And how can we live out that work in our daily efforts? Nikki, what do you think about protecting breastfeeding?
Um, I love the theme. I love the theme, and I think that's the undertone of what we try and do every day in the education that we give. And we talk about this a lot. You know, protecting the breastfeeding parent, protect the supply, and all those things. So I think that's the undertone of the work that we do on a daily basis. And I'm glad to hear that it is a part of a world, a global message that they're trying to send, because there are some entities and people and ideas that may go against the thought of breastfeeding when breastfeeding has been there since the beginning, y'all. Jesus was breastfed. Um,
Love
so
it.
so we want to protect that protect what it is and what it can do, just like the messaging around indigenous milk medicine. They're protecting what it is and what it does in their community, and I'm excited to see the different ways in which we celebrate that theme in our community. But for us, it's protecting it in the African American community, especially because there are a lot of barriers and biases and all those things. So that's how I see it as protecting it.
Yeah, I would agree. So the official verbiage from the World Breastfeeding Week organizers is that the week will focus on how breastfeeding contributes to the survival, health, and well-being of all, and the imperative to protect breastfeeding worldwide. So, of course, in there is the implied thought that breastfeeding worldwide may, in fact, be under threat, and there's a need to protect it. I think that folks from different walks of life and representing different communities, working in different places, may receive this theme a little differently and um, um, do work around the theme a little bit differently depending upon how it resonates with them. As Nikki said,
Mm-hmm.
the communities that we serve really do need protection of breastfeeding in the most literal sense, in terms of there always being some um, forces at work who would distract families from or deter them from or not well equip them to be successful in their breastfeeding journey. And that is the work that we do daily. The other part of it, Nikki, is that they have highlighted a particular area here that I think is important. It says, although support at the individual level is important, breastfeeding must be considered a public health issue.
Mm, mm,
Sure. Public
mm.
health issue that requires investment at all levels. And they're saying that this concept of building back after COVID provides us an opportunity to create a warm chain of support for breastfeeding. That's an interesting turn of phrase. It really is, and we'll talk about that. But that warm chain, they're saying, includes systemic level, local level, individual level. So health systems, workplaces, communities, all levels of society should be coming together, holding hands, creating this chain of support to make sure that families get what they need at all levels, which I think is a really interesting approach to protecting breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I actually have been using this particular approach in some of my talks recently. Excuse me. Some of y'all know I do a lot of work around normalizing brown breasts and making sure that folks who have brown breasts get the treatment that they need, the support they need to be successful at breastfeeding. And I've been talking a lot about how that there's no one singular approach to this. It has to be done at all levels. And so this really resonates with me, this idea of there's a systemic approach, there's local, there's individual. At every single level, we have to come together and make a concerted, coordinated, cooperative effort to make sure that this goal is reached, because it cannot be done in one particular way. And so that this really resonates with me. It makes sense to me that this warm chain of support. I don't know why it has to be warm. I don't know.
Because we don't
But
want it to be cold, because cold is not supportive. That's why.
I guess it can't be hot either. I don't know.
No.
But it's warm. I guess it's, very inviting, warm chain
Yes.
of support.
It's the
It will
linkage of
link.
all of the things. Come on, come on. I think it's truly an investment. It to me that speaks to an investment in breastfeeding, not necessarily also in addition to in a financial way. Like if you want to be known as the hospital that supports breastfeeding, things like that, folks shouldn't be paying you. You should be investing in it yourselves and investing in lactation consultants and having lactation consultants not just during the day when folks have babies, but babies are had at night and then they're had on the weekends. So that to me, and then also providing resources to families after they leave that space. That's a protection of it. That's an investment in it. Taking that extra step and making sure there are resources and making sure there's availability of support groups and all those types of things, and really, really buying in, like true buy-in, because you believe that breastfeeding helps public health. That is the true protection of it, is true buy-in from all the entities on the governmental level of your state health departments, your federal health departments, your local health departments, your hospitals, and all of that. In restaurants in public places, supporting breastfeeding where families are not being looked at ugly or said ugly things to. We're all in this. It's a vested interest in public health, and that's ultimately what that protection means to me.
I love that. If you all have been following or watching our work for a long time, Nikki and I are both very adamant about public health and the work that we do as community work, because we believe in the power of public health so strongly, that making sure the individuals or supporting individuals in optimal health does in fact impact the entire community.
Hmm.
And it's intentional work. It's micro level work that really impacts the macro. And so breastfeeding works in this way no matter where you are. If you're supporting the individuals, then you're supporting all the way up, as long as there is buy-in. To your point, one of the things that as you were talking, that came to mind is the baby friendly hospital initiative. There's some things that they do right, and one of those is making sure you can't be baby friendly if you don't have a connection to community support, if
Mm.
you don't have a community, some sort of outpatient support group. That was step 10 the last time I checked. There may have been some adjustments. Angela can keep me honest here. But when I started lactation support work a decade ago, the work I was doing with was creating a hospital support group so that those families had somewhere to turn after discharge. And that was a part of that hospital becoming baby friendly. And so those are ways that we can connect the various levels, create that warm chain of connection, right? So hospitals operate at this they are under um, authority of legislation and agencies that are at systemic level,
Hmm.
and they also though touch the individual. They touch the individual parents that they see, so they really are in the middle there and can create those connections in ways that a lot of other organizations cannot. So we are really thankful for every hospital that's on board, that's truly bought in,
Hmm.
and isn't just doing it, for whatever reasons, but really understands and supports this idea of how making sure that families get the support they need does impact the health of the greater community. And when has this been more important than in this moment during
Right.
this pandemic?
Mm. Right. A group project that has
We
gone
need
wrong.
everyone, all hands on deck. Um, oh, hey, we got thoughts. Hold on. Let's see what you all are saying. Someone loves the new Indigenous Milk Medicine Week name. Thank you. Shout out to folks who are at WIC, WIC PCs with us. We've got someone Now, I'm from Florida. Is that Immokalee? Immokalee, Florida? I don't know how to say that city, and I'm embarrassed. But welcome, local Floridian, fellow Floridian. Montgomery, Alabama, the DMV is in the house. Northern Massachusetts is having a virtual celebration. Let's talk about these celebrations. So some of y'all maybe having in-person events. I've seen socially distanced events at
Mm-hmm.
the at parks
Yep.
and latch-ons and such with various organizations. Those are happening. If y'all are doing those, we want to hear about them, or if you have already. But this is an opportunity also to do virtual celebrations. And I took part in one virtual latch-on at probably a year ago today during World Breastfeeding Week of last year, and that was pretty fun. So there's a way to make it engaging and get the families excited about doing something all together at the same moment, even
Mm-hmm.
virtually, even
Right.
virtually. That's
It's
just one of
virtual.
many ways. Yeah. Please continue to share with us what your exciting World Breastfeeding Week events are. Ooh, 757 Breastfeeds is the Hampton Roads in Hampton Roads, Virginia has several events this week. Okay, I
Oh,
love
I like
that.
that. I like that name too.
757. That's it. There's a hashtag. Maybe it's hashtag
Mm,
757 Breastfeeds. We got to make
hey,
sure we say that for sure. I wanted to bring up another topic, which may be a little bit controversial, but I don't shy away
that's
from
how we
controversy.
do. That's how we
That's how we do.
do.
Nikki, Nikki, I'm gonna send you the link because I think that you are able to drop it to
Hmm.
um, yeah, um, our tech folks. So y'all know my work is focused on equity and inclusion, and a large part of that is around the language that we use. And so I've seen in the last couple of days, folks, renaming World Breastfeeding Week with fantastic intention. I understand that breastfeeding as a term can be limiting, and I understand that. The document I just sent over to Nikki is um, brand new, hot off the press, released this week. The Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine released a position statement and guidelines around infant feeding and lactation related language and gender. So they're help us to hone in a bit on some of the language that we use and help us to be more inclusive in our approach, but also not exclusive at the same time. I said that to say, I've heard World Breastfeeding Week this week referred to as World Lactation Week, quite a bit in a couple of instances, and I want to give you a couple of thoughts on that. Again, I understand the intention, and I think it is pure. And the intention is to make the term inclusive and not exclude those who do not relate with the term breast or breastfeeding, or for whom the term may even be triggering or off-putting for whatever reason it doesn't resonate with them and positively. I would offer that in replacing the word breastfeeding with the word lactation, we lose something. We lose the reference to connection, and most importantly, we lose the connection to the actual feeding. And that's what this week is about: the feeding of human milk to folks around the world. And so again, I humbly offer that if you're looking for a replacement or a more inclusive term when you're referring to World Breastfeeding Week, I would offer that World Human Feeding Week may be a better or more appropriate replacement or alternative than lactation, because lactation, as you know, really is describing a process, right? A physiological process of producing milk and maybe even expressing milk in some senses, but not necessarily the feeding of another human being. And I want to make sure we don't lose that, because so much of what we're talking about protecting is the feeding part and making sure everyone gets access, every baby gets access to that milk. So that's my little tangent, my little soapbox there. If our techs are able to share out that document from the ABM, they make a lot of really interesting assertions and hard lines, and this makes, this is where this word is appropriate, and this is where this word isn't appropriate. And there are some places it feels really right to me, and some feels, little, I'm not sure about that one. But I love that they are making this effort and putting out guidelines and helping us to be consistent in the way that we use some of this language. And so I encourage you to read it, look through it yourself, come up with your own ideas. We'd love for you to share back. What do you think? Do y'all think World Lactation Week is a great alternative to World Breastfeeding Week? Or Is human feeding maybe a better or another good alternative to use? I'd love to know your thoughts and see if I'm way off base in my assertions here today. Nikki, what are you thinking?
Thank you for sharing the document.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Read it
It's a
after.
lot.
Read it after we're done. But I want you to be armed with that information, everybody.
It's a lot. And I think I dove a little too deep and I was like, whoa, I did not know that they were challenging the whole breastfeeding, chest feeding thing also. So yeah, it's a lot to unpack. It's a lot to
Don't
unpack.
agree.
And I
I don't
think,
agree with everything. I don't agree with everything.
oh, I
But
understand. I understand.
we want you to see
It,
the, yeah.
it's a lot to unpack. And but what we do want is when we say inclusive, we're not excluding anyone. We're not trying to say you can't use other names in that, and that's with anything that we's like, oh well, we're gonna call it this. I'm not saying you can't use breastfeeding, that's your business, but we are saying that in order, if in an effort to be inclusive to all and to include all folks that are feeding human milk, that is a actually more literally appropriate term to use. So
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I'm not advocating any getting rid of breastfeeding in any way. I certainly think that, just as in everything that we've talked about, whenever this topic comes up, we think using more words is better than fewer. Using more words. So making sure that you pepper in varying alternatives so that the folks that you are taking care of see themselves in there someplace is
absolutely.
the best approach. Whew, all right, we got, oh, Big Latch in Broward. Nicely done. Virtually. You're one county down for me. Maybe I need to come virtually to enjoy with you all. Philly, hey, Philly, welcome to the party. All right. The Children's Hospital WIC in DC is hosting 2 virtual breastfeeding celebrations and 2 drive-by breastfeeding celebrations. Now that sounds fun. That sounds really fun. Yeah, for WIC participants throughout the month of August. Check it out. Someone's favorite term is body feeding. Yeah, I think that's a good one too. It's a good one too. If you really like the idea, it really is about your preference, whether your preference is to name for whom to name who the milk is for or from. That would be human. Or where it's from. That would be breast or body. You know what I mean? So, and all those things make sense and all of them apply. And I don't even think body feeding made it into the ABM protocol that they put out. I haven't seen body feeding in there, but there are, like we said, all sorts of alternatives that make sense. And we just want to arm you with more words instead of fewer words to use as you're walking through some of this stuff. And we're all learning together. Yeah.
Or as you see certain things, we always try and broaden our landscape and look with a wider lens to make sure that we're being inclusive and things like that. But I do see in some of the groups and Facebook groups and stuff, I've never heard of this. Okay, here it is. But when you hear of things, I challenge you to not challenge it before like really diving in and trying to understand another where that inclusivity is coming from and how it is good intention and not ill intention. So you know that should be said. It shouldn't have to be said, but it is because some people can be on the defense of their views, and we're not taking away anybody's views. We're just giving you something for your toolkit and inclusive words and language.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's actually a part of protecting breastfeeding, if we're being honest, is making sure that the folks that we take care of hear us and understand us and know that we mean well. We have good intentions and every intention of supporting them in the way that they need to be supported. Otherwise, we're driving them away and perhaps facilitating the end of their breastfeeding relationship. If they don't get the support, if they don't get the cheerleading, if they don't get the information about what's normal and what's not, kind of thing, that we know what happens in a breastfeeding relationship when someone's left on their own, to their own devices, to figure it out on their own, without any support. And we don't want that. So part of protecting breastfeeding is making sure that we show up in ways that are warm, like the warm chain of support. We show up in ways that are inviting, and it makes sure that lets everyone know that they're welcome and safe in the space to receive care, if that's in fact true. So an important piece.
We have another comment or question. It says, in regards to protecting breastfeeding, I have many clients who are restricting breastfeeding schedules or giving formula when they're out of the house because they are not comfortable with breastfeeding in public. How do we address this? This is all about protecting breastfeeding. And in protecting breastfeeding, we have to normalize breastfeeding and make it a part of our society. Like, this is the way some folks feed their babies, and this is the way some folks feed their babies. And I want to hear also from our international folks, like, what does breastfeeding in public look like? Like, clearly we have an issue over here in the United States where we had to make it a law in all 50 states where folks will not be patrolled while they're breastfeeding, while they're feeding their children in public from their body. So one, how does that look in other countries? But one, I think a part of protecting breastfeeding and in the messaging that we have is that we normalize it as much as possible. We're posting pictures of breastfeeding families. We've had to challenge Instagram and Facebook policies over and over again to normalize it with them. That is on social media, but no one blinked the eye when this person came on with these little triangles just covering their nipple and the whole girth of the breast was out. But we say something when someone's nourishing their child. So I think we have to constantly challenge it in the places in which our clients will see, is that we normalize. We're putting pictures up of them and then asking them what would make you feel more comfortable? How can we make this more comfortable? And just educating our community. So maybe, one thing we did in New Orleans is we did a citywide campaign on educating the community. We put pictures on the sides of buses at the bus stops, and there were pictures of families breastfeeding. We had them on billboards. One time my mother was coming to visit, and we stopped at a light, and she's like, wait just a minute. Is that you and your breast on that corner? And I said, yes, ma'am, it is. And I had like waiting for it. And she's like, can I take a picture next to it? And I'm like, what? So we do have to normalize these things. I know for a fact that my children, they walk past a breastfeeding person and they're like, I'm like, you don't see a reaction. That's what I want to see. I don't actually think, and I've heard stories from this not being the case in other countries, where it's just, you just feed your baby. And that's what we're trying to do. So I think normalizing is a part of protection.
Yeah, I think all this is rooted in a very Western, not exclusive to America, but very prominent in America, focus on the breast as a sexual organ only. You know what I mean? And not really all the various uses, or the most important biological use for breast has been skewed, and we're having a very hard time coming back around to seeing them for what they're used for. Someone really liked using the udder covers when they were nursing. I remember those from way back. Yeah. I've always been a fan of just two shirts. After my first couple, of children, when it was clear that ripping off the things was going to be a norm, they didn't want to be under blankets. They want to look around and see. So then I knew okay, I don't want my belly out. I don't want to need everybody to see my tiger stripes today. So let me wear an under tank, and then I can lift my t-shirt or whatever, and baby can do what she needs to do, and then I can just pull my shirt back down, and there's nothing extra to carry along. Now that does get a little complicated when it's hot, because I don't always want to wear all these layers, and so there are other ways. Latched Mama is a shirt company that I have bought a lot of shirts from in recent years, because they have really cool little hidden panels where it looks like a typical t-shirt, and then there's a little breast hole there you never saw coming.
Bam.
Oh, bam. So there are really, really cool brands out there of both shirts and covers, and really unique covers that folks can use. I am of the ilk that do what you do. Do what you do. If more of us did what
Mm-hmm.
made us feel comfortable, I think to your point, Nikki, we would see a lot more of normalizing of breastfeeding in general. We would see folks really, some folks bearing, just taking our whole shirt up, and some folks doing it in more discreet ways, but it would still be much more common to see it done in public in a various and myriad
Mm-hmm.
ways that will become normalized just through that alone. In our work, of course, we see a lot of it in our support groups. We see a lot of it in people's homes, but
Mm-hmm.
if I'm really being honest about how much openly I see breastfeeding out in the public space, is still room, I think,
Mm-hmm.
for us to grow and adapt a bit and evolve, maybe is the word, in that way. That's it. I think that's it. We've celebrated. We've talked politics. We have given a lesson. We've shared some resources from ABM. We have talked about what you all are doing in your communities and ways that you can support. I think that we checked all the boxes of things we wanted to talk about today. If we haven't, keep us honest. Y'all would let us know. But if not, if we have, then we won't hold you any longer. We'll let you go on about your afternoon. Nikki, did you have anything else for the people?
I did not. I just want to hear more about it on our social media pages. Let us know exactly what you're doing, and we'll help spread the word, especially about your virtual events. Virtual events now, everybody, everybody can show up, so it really can be a global event. So please let us know and share those events with us because we want to make sure that we spread them far and wide.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Again, we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. We'll be having a celebration for, I want to make sure I get it right, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander
Yes.
Breastfeeding Week. Nice, nice, nice. That we will have a special guest to share with us on that, and we may be able to have even some updates on it, how Indigenous Milk Medicine Week went by that point, and we'll share with you at that time. And then you'll catch us for a third time this month on LER social media on August the 25th. Nikki and I will be live, live on your Facebook, I believe. We'll
Mm-hmm.
let you know. We'll let you know where you can find us, but we'll be there having a good time talking through image diversity and lactation and a new
Mm-hmm.
tool that's coming out that LER has partnered with us on. So we'll talk more about that then. Without further ado, no more?
No more.
Sweet. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Until then, be safe, be sanitized, and to the best of your ability, stay sane.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.